Greetings and salutations, all you beautiful individuals. It is another epi of League Unlock here at the Mark here with you beauties for a messy, exciting, dramatic, controversial weekend recap, aka the usual, after all four major regions are on the docket.
I'm calling this one the all-you-can-eat buffet plate. This is you going up there. We've got a little bit of fried rice on the plate, getting a burger from the LTA, maybe some nice cheese fondue in the LEC. Who knows? We're adding it all to the plate in this one from the weekend. Now, are all the dishes going to be cooked perfectly? No, I don't think so when we're looking at a couple of these ones, but absolutely, it was a fun time. So let's get that knife, get that fork, and let's dive into this plate.
And we'll start with the surf and turf. We're going right into the entree marquee matchup, D plus Kia versus Hanwha Life, and it feels like D plus are just running through the same script. They have a build up the hype dominant game one, the other team punches back, and you think, okay, are they going to wake up for that game three? Even though it's a little bit competitive, Hanwha Life just continues to show time and time again that their team fighting is unmatched, and Zeus continues to show that he is vying for that, MVP, best player in the LCK mantle.
This was a wonderfully interesting matchup of just two different styles coming through, where you have the clear communication of D plus Kia, that strategy, that brain, the general barrel behind it all, of what you're directing through, against just the skill of Hanwha Life on this side, where I think, yes, there's conversations to be talked about with their communication and how things are going with them. But I think this was very much clearly, and especially in this game three, just a raw hands difference, raw skill within these team fights, that they can overcome that clear communication, that one-track mind of a D plus Kia, because the skill is so good with these players, with Zeus, with Zeka, with Viper, Peanut. You can go on with this Hanwha Life team, finds a way to be the edge in the deciding game three.
I'm struggling to see how in a best of five anyone is taking 3 games against this Hanwha Life team, because there's not many weaknesses, especially when you're seeing this, fourth, fifth resurgence of Peanut's career. I don't know if Zeus coming over kind of re-injected something in this dude, but Peanut's playing the best he has in a couple years.
I think it's kind of a follow-along of what we saw with him with Gen G, right?Moving into Gen G, some questions about where his performance would be, but having players like Chovy, Ruler, Pays, these marquee guys that you get them, some advantages. You're able to get something going. And even better for him is, of course, the relationship between a jungler and a top laner, and having a player like Zeus and his skill set. Yes, I absolutely will buy that this has sparked an extra level of fire within the veteran Peanut for this Hanwha Life team.
And even if it is painful again to see D plus come up short against one of the top tier teams in the LCK, it feels like a broken record to say, well, I still feel good about this squad, and I do still feel pretty good. Are they going to win the LCK split? Probably not. You feel like they can't quite reach that upper echelon level, but they're still sitting firmly in a team you'd be scared to match up against on a world stage.
Now, the one thing that they can take out of this one, in consolation a little bit, is no matter how amazing, how great we want to praise up a Hanwha Life, this is still a Hanwha Life that is not unbeatable. They are beatable within series, within to get a game. And how do you build upon getting that one game to make it a series that you're taking away from them? Has to be that next step. And unfortunately for D plus Kia, you have to hit that drawing board. You have to hit the brainstorm room to figure out how you're getting it. And whether is that a strategy call, is that, a certain pocket pick, whatever, or is it simply a situation where we examine this D plus Kia and we say, to get over that next little hurdle, that next little bit, you need one more better player. You need someone else, a different type of thing, whatever. I think that's going to be the tough question that they're facing down after another loss to the top squad in the LCK.
And maybe something like that will get streamlined as we continue the saga, the drama That is T1 on the Rift. We'll call this one the soup appetizer that comes in. The soup comes out cold. You say, this soup's cold. You put it back. They throw it in the microwave in the kitchen back there, and it comes back, and after 2 spoonfuls, you say, nah, it's cold again. Because that's what T1 put up against the Bros over the weekend. And don't look now, but all of a sudden, T1 is now tied for 5th place in the LCK.
And now it's this conversation of inconsistency with T1, because I think we had one of these series where there is a little bit of a stopgap. You do have Owner performing very well for this team, and I think still even within this game, you're looking at Owner as being one of the stronger performing players for T1. But it's not enough, and there is dysfunction, there is underperformance, there's all of them combined, equaling out a lower and lower level of performance from this team. And when you see matchups like DK versus Hanwha Life, putting out a result like this is not going to buy you any favors, saving excitement in the LCK.
And it's a little bizarre because they have such a dominant game too. It looks like, the series will be flipped and T1 should smash that 3rd game. Even Doran was playing, he's getting some solo kills, looking great on the Gwen. And then, game 3, it's just not a great performance. And listen, the result going to 4-4 is more on the back burner for me. Watching throughout this series, the body language of the T1 players, Owner is sighing, guys' heads are kind of hanging down. When T1 has been at their best, and most teams, they're having fun. They're enjoying, even in the losses, they're kind of cooking things up. These are kind of standard drafts we're getting out of T1. We're getting a Lucian Alistair bot lane. I don't know what that is.
Which, let's check in. That Lucian did no damage. It was not a really good viable option in this one. Neither the piloting of it really from Guma, but I also just in general what you were able to do in this game. It was never the option really for this Lucian. And yes, it is one of those ones where you don't really have all that much concern. Yes, not too many major alarm bells going off at the overall record for T1, and understanding going to be more than enough room in this runway to still get yourself in that playoff picture, when all things are considered. But you laid it out, the emotions, the visual of these guys and how they're feeling throughout these games, after the games, everything else. I'm not expecting you to lose and be all smiley and happy and everything else like that, but it is very clear that there is a funk going on, that the mojo has been disrupted within this organization, within this 5-man roster. I don't know how you fix that, and whether if that's a fix of just saying, okay, it is Guma or it is Smash, however you solve this, I'm not exactly certain right now, but I do know, and I will say, you do need to solve that one before we're really diving into stuff on the Rift, because you laid it out more than anyone. If T1's not feeling like a family, if they're not feeling like they're having fun on the Rift, you're not going to see the results.
And that behind the scenes relationship and dynamic is way more difficult to solve than any on the Rift issues, because we've seen T1, this basically exact roster, Sans, Doran, flip a switch in playoffs and they look like Worlds contenders and they win Worlds. But if there is all these issues behind the scenes, maybe there's broken trust within either management, the coaching staff, or the players, that usually is impossible to fix without some kind of major shakeup.
Yeah, and that's, I think, the worrying point here for T1 fans, is whether you think that there is going to be an ability to find that bounce back, whether that middling, bottoming out is good enough to hold yourself in contention until you can figure these things out. That's really the question mark here. And as we see teams in the LCK continue to improve, continue to rise up, BNK sharpening themselves up, hey, even DRX might make that climb up, whatever. There still is some crazy things that can happen. And when you're T1 and you're slowly slipping, losing ground, losing grasp on that top level of the LCK, these are the things that you do have to be worried about.
You're not worried about entertainment in the LEC over the weekend. And if we'll stick with the restaurant analogy, this is the dish that you know is going to be spicy, but you take the risk and get the highest level just to see if you can handle it. And Fnatic, not one, but two banger series on the day. Obviously, the Koi Game 3, we're going 53 minutes. Humanoid is a single auto attack away from winning this series. And by the way, he queues a minion to get that empowered auto attack. If he just autos, doesn't queue the minion, Fnatic wins this series.
No, and it's so bad because it's of course one of those ones. Every replay, every examination of it is going to show you and tell you that story. To be able to be present, to be mindful of something like that and understand it in that exact split-second moment, impossible to expect from anybody, even the very best of the best. So understandable in this one, but they get the bounce back is the important thing for Fnatic after the end of it all. And even better for Fnatic fans, it's against G2.
And I mean, it's almost more impressive to have that insane of an ending series and to bounce back against G2. And remember, listen, this week, the road show in Madrid, this was an absolute treat. This was better than the last, 3 LEC finals, and we're in the middle of the regular season.
Oh, man, you got to find a way to do this more often. And I understand doing it more often lessens it and, more familiar. You got to find a way to do this because, again, I think esports is at its very best when we are having live events like this, getting the crowd involved and having that type of experience, and especially in Europe and the LEC and the way that you can connect and travel and everything else, not taking advantage of road weekend opportunities like this, putting on a show like that, having that environment for the players, for the crowd. It all is a success to me. I want to see more.
And major shout out to both Upset and Mickey in this series, especially. Absolute bot gap. Mickey, you could see, was just possessing the spirit of Hans Sama, his former buddy in the bot lane. It was a 10-0-12 Corky performance out of Upset in that third game, and game 3 wasn't close. So Fnatic feeling very good after that series and for delivering the banger, even though they lost. And how about G2 now? Already lost to Giant X earlier on the weekend, now mired in a 3-game losing streak, and Caps has not been up to, I hate to say it, we've gotten basically 2 straight series of craps on the Rift.
And now it becomes that ever-evolving roller coaster of the LEC. Are G2 in trouble, or is this just G2 being G2 and the way that things flow through? I'm willing more so to say on the side than normally on it's a bit of trouble in the LEC with the way that I think some of these other squads are playing and rising up, the challenges that they're going through and improving themselves through. And then you look at, as you said, with G2, and really the big one for me, we've seen G2 flounder, fluctuate. We've seen claps, we've seen craps, but having it be consistent back-to-back craps type of performances, that's not something we see all that often out of G2. So I'm a little bit concerned with this one. And that is a mixture of the struggles of G2 and the improvements that we have seen from the rest of the competing crowd of the LEC.
Yeah, there's now, Koi playing competitively like they did against Fnatic, beating them. There's now 3 teams that you say they could be better than G2 even when playoffs roll around. And it's another throw them to into the T1 category of can they just turn it around when these best of 5s end up rolling around. We finally got best of 3s kicking off in the LTA. And because it's not a high stakes playoff series yet, that means FlyQuest has absolutely no trouble dismantling 100 Thieves.
Yeah, but good to see best of 3s return to the LTA. More than necessary, I'll say, to engage in some viewership numbers, getting back into healthier territories. And you started out by getting this series, getting this win through against 100 Thieves, and really just more or less establishing of that power order in the LTA of how you have to view both of these teams after this match.
And FlyQuest kind of across the board. Again, it's Quid and River trying to do as much as they possibly can, but even they were kind of not on the same page in some of this series. A better series out of Masu than we've seen the last couple of weeks. He's kind of been a bit of a passenger princess in some of these series for FlyQuest, but got to come online a bit in this one, but pretty convincing from start to finish. Cloud9 also had their convincing series win, and then Team Liquid, less convincing, but still a series win. And really the bigger news here is we are getting a 6-man roster, not just out of FlyQuest, but Team Liquid saying Yuji is going to be joining as their 6th man in the jungle. This is the 2-time NACL MVP, and there's much more so than the FlyQuest top lane sub, a legit opportunity where we see Yuji as the main starter for Team Liquid.
Yeah, I think the FlyQuest situation is more so a development angle for the other player in the top side, alongside Bwipo moving into more that veteran, coaching type of role in his career type of thing. I think that's more so where that picture falls into it. Whereas this one for me for Team Liquid is getting yourself a little bit of an extra insurance, another option, another angle in the jungle, because we have certainly talked about possibly being one of these links that you want to level up, let's just say, for Team Liquid. So having another option here, and especially one that we have seen through the minor scene here as well, leveling up and showing that talent, bringing him on, I think is a good move for Team Liquid.
And I think there's been a lot of guys underperforming on Team Liquid, despite them coming away with that first split title where they turned things around in playoffs. Impact is kind of mired in, statistically at the very least, his worst start to a year.
Be real, it's everybody outside of Jan, and you can buddy up Core JJ beside there as far as where it is. But to be fair, last year was a different story. Last year, it would have been that hyper focus on in the jungle as far as where you wanted that extra insurance. I can understand a conversation that maybe this year's edition of Team Liquid, you need more in other areas as well. But I'll take this one for this team. It seems like that's one of the new trends for our top teams in the LTA to say, sign us up for a 6-man roster. Let's work this one out.
Yeah, and I think it's a combination probably of how, first stand went for Team Liquid with the bottoming out early, and then seeing the level FlyQuest and Cloud9 are at right now. And I feel like if you're Team Liquid, you're going, yay, we got to do something if we're going to be able to match these guys.
Yeah, you got to find a way to keep pace, got to keep yourself options up with the arsenal that is going to be there for these top teams in the LTA. One of the ways to give yourself a chance, a different angle and whatnot when you're stepping onto Summoner's Rift for Team Liquid. I like this move, keeps things interesting in the, circus that we have here of the LTA.
Obviously, over the weekend, BLG, they saw T1 drop a game to Bro, and they said, hey, don't worry, brothers. We got you with an upset loss to Fun plus Phoenix. We said coming into this week, this is the 4-game week for BLG, the absolute gauntlet, and they started in possibly the worst way imaginable.
Okay, it was cute the first couple of weeks where T1 and BLG were kind of mirrored. Now it's funky. I'm not dealing with this one. I'm not vibing with this as we see the continued struggles for these guys. And it is, as we laid out, that pivotal, crucial, must-perform week for BLG this week in the LPL. And it starts off on the sourest of notes with a loss to FPX. Just disappointment overall. I think this was, again, still one of these series that does go the distance and has some length to it, but never, I think, really fully in doubt that it is going to go the way it does. And BLG has ended up picking up the pieces as losers once again, happening far too often this split in the LPL.
And I know Wei is the easy scapegoat. This is the guy mired in trade rumors or replacement rumors now, but he was supposed to be the guy kind of just coming in as game manager on this squad when you have solo laners and a bot lane that were in contention for best in the LPL and top 3 internationally. And to be honest, all 3 lanes, we haven't seen that level to split.
Yes, and it's one of those ones where I can understand getting on Wei and saying that you are the guy, the facilitator, the mover. You're supposed to help get these superstars roll and play your role, and pointing at him. To me, it still is outweighed drastically by looking at this lineup and seeing those star players, multiple. It's not just a singular star that you're pointing at. It is multiple. You're going through Bin, you're going through Knight, you're going through Elk in the bottom lane. You can point fingers at every single one of them and say, well, I understand you want a little bit of help from your jungler. You want something better here or there. You're good enough that you can be the difference maker, that you can be enough in these situations. And we haven't seen that from any of the 3 in any of these matches for BLG. It is a terrifying time for them to have these struggles like this and have, nothing really to grasp at as far as how are you getting and seeing yourself rising up that challenging ladder in the LPL.
Especially now you're sitting tied for 5th against a rising Weibo squad that just took down IG.
And there it is. There's the kicker as well, is okay. And you're still looking at the rest of your super weekend. Weibo, uh-oh. And Weibo is winning, as we laid out, getting that head-to-head against IG recently. They are certainly one of the teams in good form, in good fashion in the LPL. Cannot be dropping both of the games against Weibo this week for BLG.
So at the top of the table, BLG is old news because we got iconic throwdowns like Top Esports and JDG getting into the ring this weekend, and fantastic back and forth series. Scouts getting a pentakill on Lissandra to secure a win, but it's the same theme we've seen all LPL split wrong, and that is Kanavi absolutely smurfing on everybody in the region.
How many games, how many splits would we have to go back to go find a Lissandra pentakill again? There can't be all that many of them. I know she is capable of stuff like this, but there
not
can't
since
be all
she's
that
had
many.
these little ice ghosts coming over, taking things over.
Yeah, so I'll give Scott the credit on that one, but this was at the end of the day, Top Esports finding that way, and Kanavi being that threat in the jungle. And this is one of the stories that we've been tracking the last couple of weeks, and especially with the Nefiri angle, assassins type of things in the jungle. This isn't about Nefiri. He's on Sejuani doing things in this series that you would think he's on. Nefiri out there in the jungle. Kanavi, a very special player who is playing at his very best right now and helping Top Esports slowly but surely rebuild some of that trust, some of that excitement that they have lost since the disappointment at First Stand.
Yeah, and we've talked about this before. Can't believe how different this team looks compared to First Stand. Now sitting pretty at 8-1, very clearly at the top of the LPL, right alongside anyone's legend. And things are really cooking on all cylinders. I feel like 369 is in the best form that he's been since the JDG era.
If you're Top Esports, I'm finding a way to call into MSI and say, can we replace all the UI, all the graphics overlay, just bring over the LPL package so our guys think we're still in the LPL, because we'll perform, we're beaters, we're the best at this point. You throw them into any circumstance in the LPL and they're able to thrive. It doesn't matter what the situation was.
Worlds is in China, just saying. So TES gonna get that home buff and think they're in the LPL, which is a terrifying prospect for them to be at this level. But that is it today for League Unlock. Eric and Mark here with you. Absolute beauties. Thanks for hanging out, and we will catch you on that flippity flip.